Good evening and welcome to Wrestling Rewind. I am Angel Amoroso and I am joined by my co-host
Iron Man Tommy Cairo.
And this week we are debuting Wrestling Archives, and that's something that Tommy is very passionate about. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get into Wrestling Rewind's Wrestling Archives. Tommy?
Great. So what our mission is during this segment is to compare different organizations around the same time, and we will analyze a match from that day. So this is going to be WWF All-Star Wrestling, July 21st, 1979, from the Hamburg Fieldhouse against AWA All-Star Wrestling, July 28th, 1979, from Minneapolis, Minnesota. So same time frame, both called All-Star Wrestling, definite rivals. At that point, AWA was still a player. And then what we're going to do is
lots of stuff still going on at the Hamburg Fieldhouse.
Yeah, I was just there. Yep. So what I wanted to do to make it a little interesting, if you guys want to do this yourselves, you can. I'll ask Angel to keep score when we get to it. We're looking at just a short criteria. We're going to look at match length. Basically, we want to see on TV. Keep this in mind. This is on TV, so it's going to involve enhancement talent. We want to know which organization is giving their enhancement talent more offense, which of course makes for a more competitive match. Then we're going to look at how much offense from the enhancement, believability of the match itself, athleticism overall. They have a bunch of older guys that are just hanging out in the corner, or is there a bunch of young guys doing a real nice job? And then overall match quality. Okay, so we will start with WWF All-Star Wrestling from the Hamburg Fieldhouse. So your current champions at the time, WWF Heavyweight Champion Bob Backlund, North American Champion. You don't even remember that title, most people. I think that turned into the Intercontinental. Pat Patterson, and the tag team champions Johnny and Jerry Valiant. Not really brothers. Anyway, pop culture at the time. Number one movie of the week, Moonraker, starring Roger Moore. Number one song of the week, Bad Girls. Bad Girls, you remember that?
Yeah, Donna Summer. Yeah,
exactly. Wow, but that was when that song came on, everybody just stopped. They were doing.
Every one of her songs, actually. she was a showstopper.
Good times.
Yeah, really good times.
It was a good time for everything. Country was in good shape. Reaganomics, we were doing good. Anyway, where was the Bad Girls? Number one TV show of the 78-79 season, Laverne and Shirley, starring Penny Marshall and Cindy Williams.
Oh, all right.
So, again, keep in mind this sentence right here and know that Vince Sr. has been telling us all along that it's a work. And where it says that is in the beginning of the program, and it says the following wrestling exhibition
exactly
requires discretionary viewer participation. So that tells you right there. I don't know what the big deal is. It's been done, forever. So he's the one that's guilty for it. All right. Your hosts are Vince McMahon and Bruno Sammartino. I like Vince and Bruno together. I thought they made a good pair, especially because I know that Vince respected Bruno, and that made for an overall better show. And doggone it, you hear Bruno was first match, Bulldog Brower, that was Brower Power, was Captain Lou Albano versus Mark Paul. I have no idea who Mark Paul is. I don't recognize that name. There's not many that I don't recognize, but I'll be looking him up later. Another roughhousing squash for Brower. Not much to talk about here. At one point, Vince shows his disgust with how fat Albano is. The bombs away knee drop and a fist drop to the chest ends this one. 5:06 is the time. While he sticks around through the middle of 1980, this looks like the last time we will be seeing old Bulldog Brower on All-Star Wrestling. He was, they had brawls, him and Bruno. And he was considered at one time one of Bruno's biggest rivals. And he was he's just nuts. And
was that his best appearance?
That's what it says. I don't know.
Wow.
For them, maybe. But I'm sure he went elsewhere.
Brutal.
There was a rumor that to get his deep dark tan, he used to rub himself with Coca-Cola and lie on the beach. Who knows if it was true? But he was very adamant that he had a tan, and you see him; he's always brown. So I tell you, he didn't do much technically, but he could put the crowd in a frenzy and cause almost riots. They used to call him the one-man riot squad. So great talent, but
living up to his name.
Yeah. So that's the end of that one. All right. So Johnny and Jerry Valiant with Captain Lou Albano, who's always a blast, and Jimmy Valiant versus Ivan Putski and Steve Travis. So we'll talk about Steve Travis after we'll go over this match. So straight out of the lockup, Travis puts Johnny in a full Nelson and takes him over to Putski for a shot, only for Jerry to run in and nail Travis from behind. That starts a beatdown on Travis that goes on for a while. Anytime Travis begins to make a comeback, the other Valiant brother nails him from behind. Very sneaky they were. They do a false tag spot that gets Travis even more hurt. Jerry delivers a swinging neck breaker, but Travis prevents a second one from happening. Out comes Jimmy Valiant to talk smack about Putski. There's a blind tag to Putski as he unloads on the Valiants. Jerry takes control for a moment, but Ivan finds a way to grab a bear hug. Johnny breaks up the hole by lowering the boom. While Travis is with the ref, Johnny and Jerry whip Ivan into the corner. They cut the ring in half on Putski, who battles back and tags in Travis, and Jerry tied up in the ropes. The match breaks down as Johnny crotches Steve Travis on the top rope. This match just won't settle back down, so the ref DQs both sides. Afterward, both teams go to the floor to continue to brawl. Both Putski and Travis deliver their own double noggin knocker to the Valiants. Fun little match. Now, that sounds familiar, so I hope we didn't repeat this.
It's such a simpler time when, the match told a story, and there wasn't like back-to-back moves that required flips one right after the other and finishing moves in the middle of the match. Like, they didn't do this kind of stuff back then. There was some kind of thought put into what they were actually doing.
And you know what's a great example of that? Perfect example. All right, two guys are working. Apparently, this guy is getting ready to do, because the announcer's already telling you, because you can see him setting up to get to the top rope. So whatever he does to his opponent, you should allow yourself enough time. You got to do something devastating enough that gives you the time to get back up there without this guy having the time to recover. But
right.
Guess what? If you did something to him so devastating that he needs all that time to go to the top rope, why didn't you just pin him? Aren't you trying to win the match? Or maybe you do this. You try to pin him and you can't. He just sneaks out. Then you beat him down a little more. Then you jump up there and you do your finish. Why do you hit a guy with a big move and pick him up? Well, aren't you trying to win the match? So it's a little weird that you don't have to do anything off the top rope.
There's no psychology behind the actual movement.
And you see it even in the old stuff, obviously. So after the break, we hear from the Valiant brothers. While Vince holds the mic, Johnny V talks smack about how stupid Ivan Putski is. Jimmy says the Valiants are one of the richest families in the world. He shows us a Holiday Inn towel around his neck. They didn't steal this towel. Oh, no. They have invested their money and hold the biggest share in the company. Of course, Jerry says nothing. Albano says he's got the World Tag Team Champs, among other nonsense, to kill time. Johnny puts Albano over as a reason for their success. Vince reminds Johnny that the last time the Valiants lost the tag belts, Albano dropped them like a hot potato. Johnny claims that was all a diversion of some sort. Jimmy says the Valiants look good, smell good, and taste good. Woo, mercy. More Albano nonsense closes out the segment. Wow. Lou is, we got stuck.
Huh? Tastes good.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Oh,
that was definitely a little weird.
A little.
But what's good about Albano is we got stuck in a field house doing an outside show with a rain delay. And he went around a room and he attacked every nationality one by one. He looked over. If he saw, you were German, he'd ask you, he'd say some rude German thing. Or if you were Polish, he'd say, "Can you get me some potatoes?"
Oh,
Just stupid stuff. But that was him. Do you know he entertained us for 2 hours without a break? Just unbelievable. That's a talent.
it's in
Really
some
is.
people's nature to, they're just born entertainers and they
Yeah.
can't shut up regardless of what it's about. So
So you
follow
will
up.
recognize, yeah, you will recognize the opponent of Greg Valentine as Frank Williams. Frankie Williams. Do you remember Piper's Pit? And he brought Frankie Williams on as a guest, which was a clue right there. Something was going to happen. And he mimicked the way Frank Williams talked. And, and then he attacked him and beat him down. So that was like a highlight, really, for Frank Williams because they didn't use him for much.
Anyone who was on Piper's Pit was the highlight, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right.
That's where our friend Derek Domino started his wrestling career on Piper's Pit as a child.
Yeah. Wow.
He actually ran up on the stage while they were filming at the Spectrum, and Bob Wharton was the guest, and he grabbed the microphone and start mouthing off into it. I'll send you the clip, actually.
Yeah.
It's entertaining.
It's great. It's great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, simple.
Right.
Simple. It doesn't have to be all rude and crude. Very simple. There's no reason to go to those lengths. It's not necessary because then you got nowhere else to go. Once you hit the guy with all the stuff and he pops up and you can't pin him. Like, what are you supposed to do? Shoot the guy? I mean, it's a little ridiculous. But listen, that's not our problem because we're talking about old wrestling. So it's a little bit different. So this is interesting. So like I said, Greg Valentine with the Grand Wizard, McMahon, who was the best, right? Ernie Roth, and against Frankie Williams. Now, if anybody wants to see, Frankie Williams, pull up Piper's Pit with Frankie Williams. He takes a beating, a terrible beating. All right. So Bruno does a great job putting over Valentine as a capable yet sadistic wrestler. Valentine punishes Williams with an armbar for a while. When he tries to come out, Valentine hammers him to the floor. He pounds Frankie on the apron. Back inside, Williams gets a brief comeback, very, very brief, but charges into a knee in the corner. Valentine now takes his time knee dropping Frankie on the back. Vince and Bruno discuss when they think Valentine is going to implement the figure four. Again, since he hasn't used the hold in a while, a pair of elbow drops later, and Valentine scores another victory in 7:21. So he didn't use it. So he's saving it for bigger and better things. But if you're good at commentary, you start setting that stuff up, and like you take one of the best, Gordon Soley, there was always a way for him to get the move over, to get the talent over with a background and fit it in there just perfectly. And that's a big part of being a good announcer is knowing the history of the guy that's in the ring.
Classic announcers like that, like Gordon Soley, Lance Russell really knew how to make you feel what was going on.
Yep. And Lance Russell is the best. You know why?
Lance was the best.
And when those wild roles were going on in the studio, he was like, "Come on, Jerry!" Like he would talk to these guys, like
yeah, he was keeping his cool about it. Like he was
to me. Jerry, that's enough now. Get him out of
here.
Right. Awesome.
The voice of reason.
Yeah. But he made by using their names like that instead of saying, Lawler, so come on, Jerry, like indicating that they were tight,
Right.
I think was cool. All right, so this one probably be a stinker, okay, but we'll talk about it anyway. Chief Jay Strongbow from Pawhuska, Oklahoma via Nutley, New Jersey, Italian guy, right, Joe Scarpa, but he had the big Italian nose, which he could look like an Indian. He's darker, complexion. when he did his war dance, I got to be honest with you, I was a mark for Chief Jay Strongbow. I can't help it. And, when he went into that thing and went like this, and Vince would say, Strongbow putting the bad mouth on whoever his opponent was, would go like this. It was great. I was a big Chief Jay fan.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and Jose Estrada, capable journeyman, but it is what it is. You're going to get a beating. All right. Estrada stalls on the floor to start. Vince and Bruno discuss whether or not Strongbow's knee brace is being used as a weapon. Bruno hasn't seen that, but thinks maybe Strongbow is just waiting to use the brace against the right opponent. Greg Valentine. Estrada jumps Strongbow and beats him down in the corner. This sets up Strongbow going on the warpath. As you might expect, they brawl on top of the timekeeper's table where Strongbow nails Estrada and the water pitcher. DQ. He then runs Estrada into the post and heads back inside to finish him off with a knee lift and a double tomahawk chop for the win in 4:47. Not a complete squash, not a 2-minute squash.
Yeah, 4:47 is not really a squash. 3 minutes is a squash.
Yeah.
4:47, that's,
yeah,
under 5, but still a match.
Yeah. And I guess, you can make a case for it taking them that long to beat the guy down rather than just monster heel, a minute. The Road Warriors come in.
Right.
But these are not the Road Warriors.
Right.
But you could get away with that with them because you were pushing them as the biggest monsters.
Exactly. The guys who would make an entrance and you would expect them to beat their opponents and, before their entrance music was done.
Exactly.
So some people it's just expected of. So.
Yeah. But it can't hurt to let the enhancement talent babyface hit you with a couple of drop kicks, even if they don't take you off your feet, just so there's something on the other end.
Right.
It depends on the time, the time frame. That changed. It was different for different people. All right. This is Swede Hansen. I don't know if you remember that big. He was a big guy. With Freddie Blassie versus Steve King. Now, Steve King is another one of those guys, a Hispanic guy, very capable, but, they threw him around. So this is no different because this takes only a couple minutes. So what it says right there, so that's Steve King. So, all right, so here's Dick Worley as a referee. Great. So Hansen and Blassie are having some serious issues with Dick Worley to start. Anyway.
As everyone did.
Yep.
He was a performer amongst himself,
Yeah. Oh, he was the best.
Good old Dick.
I miss him so much. Where was I? All right. So Hansen and Blassie are having some serious issues with Dick Worley to start. Anyway, Hansen hammers on Steve King and puts him away with a pile driver in 3:07. There wasn't much description there. So that's a couple of matches during that time frame for the WWF. And I think back to when I was trying to catch as many shows as I could. And to me, it was very clear even at this point, where I was 10 years away from breaking into the business yet, that it was a little more cartoonish on the WWF side. Not quite yet, but as you get into the 80s, they really separated themselves. You could see a clear difference in the shows. WCW 605, 705 was glued to the TV, and the girlfriend I had at the time is indoctrinated. He's got to have the TV, and he's going to be there for 2 hours, and he's going to eat a lot of food. That was the given, okay? I didn't miss it. I loved it.
And it was kind of a choice between a promotion that had more of a harder core style to it a little bit back then, or a promotion that was using animals and, attached to their wrestlers in order to get their talent over. So,
yeah, and as a young fan, I recognize that. And I remember one of my first interviews that I did that was in a magazine, not long after I broke in. And I said that, and I meant it. Like, what do you see about the industry? Where would you like to work? I said, well, for me, there's more cartoonish type of stuff in WWF. And I think, without saying, it's as close to a shoot, more close to a shoot than the other product. I said, I just think the NWA stands for real wrestling, and that was the best way I could describe it, because you couldn't really watch a lot of those matches without, if you were on the verge, you didn't know yet, like you didn't know Santa Claus yet until you saw something that proved there was none,
Right.
you could still like say, wow. Well, even if it is predetermined, wow, those guys beat the crap out of each other. WWF was lighter, way lighter. You would get
Wait.
guys, you're a new guy, you come in, don't go in there, because they see you come in and shake like that. They're like, whoa, guy's a crowbar, So you can't even be enthusiastic without them taking a pot shot at you. So you didn't come in and give them the stupid little 2-finger. I never did that. If you do that to me, I'm going to crush your hand. You don't have to be
good,
but not this 2 fingers. It's stupid. I feel a little gay when I do that. It's not right. So, and not that there's anything wrong with that.
Of course not.
No. All right. Let me see where I'm at. NWA. Here we go. Oh, we did. That was a WWF.
The thing is that they were also looking for a different demographic, I guess, and looking to gear more towards kids at a time where the NWA was not looking to aim itself towards children. So the whole marketing with the animals and whatnot, you really can't blame them for.
No.
They, it was something that just worked in the generation to get the people. So.
Yeah. And, as a matter of fact, at that point, there was really no turning back for WCW/NWA. And I think it served them better because they had rabid fans, because they were coming to see the blood and they were getting it there. So I guess it all depends on the society that prevails in that state and, what it's like, the morals, they didn't protect the kids from that, Those shows were, I don't remember a lot of color on the shows. I do remember some, but I mean on the TV.
Early 80s, there was color on TV as much as like I guess when like UWF, I think they were taking a lot of what they saw from UWF and trying to incorporate it then into their product, because a lot more blood than they had previous to that. It's so. Taking that into consideration, different products, for different companies.
The problem I see with if you got 8 guys in the locker room and they're all scarred up and they're all recent scars, unless it was an 8-man tag match, it's a little much. Like, it's a little too much, and it loses meaning when everybody does it. So I think, I don't know what the theory was there, but I think it was a little too much. But listen, they were doing their thing, and obviously was not a mirror reflection of what was going on in New York. It was just
I believe that it was really funny that by the time WWF realized that they had to get a more mature audience, and the audience did want blood and a little bit harder work and a little bit more violence to be obvious, then they started hiring people from the NWA that then became WCW that they previously probably wouldn't even had considered using.
Absolutely.
So as wrestling makes their advancements, whoever's on the top is going to take from whoever might be on the bottom, who might have a better idea that might be newer to them and more marketable, because it's newer to their audience. So
and I mean, I think a little bit of. I remember this when I would go. I went at the arena, the Newark Armory, the first live match I went to. I mentioned it before with Bruno, to see Bruno. I remember there was a magazine, Up to Date magazine, that would have been on the newsstand, and they were selling it at a table, and it said, so and so signs Brower's death certificate in hot blood. Well, you couldn't get me away from it.
Strong.
Dad, I gotta get that.
Yeah.
How much is it? It's 75. I remember when I started buying magazines, they had just went from 50 cents to 60 cents, and now they were 75. And my father's like, "That's 75 cents." Like, wow, you know what I mean? I got my kid a a 350Z for seven, for when he starts driving, even though he's only 16 now. Mm-hmm. So I try to give my kids, what I didn't have. And when you hear your father, making a big deal over 75 cents, I had to reverse that and I probably went overboard. And I don't get anything out of it. I would never do and say, and my kid is wonderful, but I would never do and say a lot of things that he gets away with. And he's got the 350Z, and I couldn't get a magazine. So I don't know where
times are different now. Everything's so.
All right, so this was, and what I like about this also, Hamburg Fieldhouse for TV, and here is KMSP Channel 9 TV studio. Smaller venue, but still reasonably similar because they're both TV. Mm-hmm. So they should be running a similar program. All right, so this is July 28th, 1979, Minneapolis, Minnesota, KMSP Channel 9 TV studio. I love that they did that. That they had these studios that had, one's got a stage for this show. All right, we can put them in here, and put a ring in there, and you get 100 people. You charge whatever, live TV taping. To me, that's the best wrestling to watch. Mm-hmm. When you got pyrotechnics, and even in the first row, you're 30 feet from the action, something's lost. Too much. It's too much. But when you see these small buildings and you work in them and you peek out and you ask the guy who's looking out, how's the house? And he goes, it's pretty good. And it's still half hour before bell time. Then you start to get excited. Then you go and you get the guy you're working with, and it's not one of those things where a lot of guys do this. I never did. Bro, there's nobody out there, let's take it easy. I never did that because if there's 30 people, they deserve the same amount from you as if there were 300. They still are there, or 3,000. You got to give them a shot.
If you're there and you're going to do it, you might as well do it right, no matter how many people are there. Yeah. Like, no one deserves to be ripped off just because, some other people decided not to show up. I mean, you should still have the same caliber match.
Yeah. How do you know who's watching?
Right.
They might want to see if you're still going to do a good job, even though there's nobody there.
And now everyone videos everything. Everyone, takes it off their phone and has their match. So a lot more people are going to see it than just the people that show up. So put your work into it,
Yeah. All right. So we'll start with this one here. Current AW champions, only 2. They didn't have 1 million titles. Too expensive to buy those belts. Vern was cheap. He didn't want to spend the money.
All right.
These other guys, they didn't have a show yet. And they got 6 belts. I'm like, what are you doing?
Right.
I mean, it's crazy. All right. So this is, it says here, this is just me clearing off my hard drive. I don't have any more 1979 AWA All-Star Wrestling shows in my collection as of the time, but you never know what might come in the future. This is the WWE 24/7 Classic on-demand edition. Your host is Roger Kent. That doesn't ring a bell. I didn't get to see a lot of that until later when it was aired at the same room that I ran the Outlaws of Wrestling, the ballroom of the Tropicana. Oh. All right. So current heavyweight champion is Nick Bockwinkel. Class 11/18/75. What is that? I don't know what. That's when he must have won the title. Okay.
AWA World 11/18/75.
Yeah.
That's 75, the year I was born.
Yeah. Well, but I'll tell you this. He didn't hold it for that 4 years. He traded it back and forth with the Booker owner, Vern Gagne. Very common, and it never works in the end. You can't beat a Booker and put yourself over like that much. It's not good. Nobody likes it, and you should be too busy worrying about the quality of the show to have that big a part. Constantly winning the belt back and forth. That's my opinion. So the tag team champions at that time were who? Vern Gagne and Mad Dog Vachon. So apparently when Vern wasn't holding the heavyweight title, he gave himself 1/2 of the tag team title. I don't know. That's a little greedy,
Yeah.
Put your skinny kid over. You know.
It sounds like someone's a little bit too much of a mark for themselves, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
A little
And
bit.
if you do it like Frankie Goodman, and
Wow.
you put the mask on, and you're the mask maniac, and you never win.
And there's a way around it.
I can appreciate that. You're
Oh,
not
yeah.
worried about winning. You just want to get in a ring. Good for you.
Right.
You know. All right. So Roger Kent is the host. We go to the St. Paul Civic Center for a weightlifting contest between Paul Ellering and Jesse Ventura. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Paul Ellering when he was an
Oh,
actual worker. He was
wow.
jacked, right? He was jacked up.
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely.
And okay, so if you have been following my Portland 79 reviews, you'll see that Ventura has now left the Portland area and landed in the AWA, where he'll pretty much stay until he joins the WWF in 1984. Check it out. I just used this word. Ellering is absolutely jacked here.
Oh, there we go.
He manages to deadlift 500 pounds before he poops out his colon. Oh my! This guy's pretty good. He really is. It's a little crude, but it gets the point across.
Right.
Now they jack it up to 700 pounds. Ventura stalls a bit and demands complete silence from the crowd. Once Jesse does try to deadlift 700, he lifts the weight off the mat only. He doesn't get his shoulders back, which would make it a complete lift. However, hold on, why did they do this? Ellering completes the lift and gets his eyes filled with weightlifting chalk. So, they have that little stand and it's got this chalk in it, it's calcium.
Right.
And, you get it in the eyes and,
Of
very
course.
popular. It wasn't that, it was Fuji and Tanaka with the salt in the eyes, you have the little packet and you pull it out. I always liked that. I thought it was great. I'm sorry.
Salt to the eyes, fire to the eyes, powder to the eyes. It's all good.
I remember when they said somebody got blinded and they referenced the type of powder and called it Monsel's powder. I never heard of it. I never looked it up. But apparently, there must have been enough people that knew about it.
Maybe it was down south. They have their own kind of Confederate products there that are different names. So
yeah.
Could have been
Jesse tries to deadlift 700. He lifts the weight off the mat, only he doesn't get his shoulders back to complete the lift. However, Ellering completes the lift 700 pounds. It's only 1,000 now. And that's way bigger guys. Yeah. I don't know if the weights may have not been real. Who knows? He's not saying it. However, Ellering completes the lift and gets his eyes filled with weightlifting chalk. Absolutely furious. Jesse puts the boots to Ellering until some refs hold him back. Due to all the mess here, Ellering does a stretcher job. Ventura still manages to kick at Ellering while he's still on the stretcher. Oh, the humanity. Before he starts a riot, Ventura is escorted out of the arena. That's if he can get that kind of heat. I don't ever remember that, but it sounds like he did. Now, this has got a guy in it. All I got to do is say his name, and you'll know. Buck Zumhoff.
Scumbag.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Scumbag, all scumbags.
Yeah. So
I
hope Nick Bachman kicks his ass.
Someone needs to.
Is there no limit to the depravity? Yeah. Terrible.
Makes you sick.
I want to go.
We'll get into the perverts later.
Yeah, we will. Don't you worry about it.
We will get to you all. So
no, but
moving on with Wrestling Archives.
Oh yeah.
Okay, but he is part of them. So
absolutely. Listen, I don't have to be quiet about my dislike of that type of person comes on top of being a father, having a daughter and a son. So I wouldn't want that to happen to my daughter, and I don't want my son to perpetrate anything like that either.
And you definitely wouldn't do it to your own child.
Of course not.
Is the issue,
Why these people haven't been locked up? We're more worried about locking up some guy with tickets. Are you kidding me? How about you go after these people? How about you get the list in each town and you know where they are and you cruise around and keep an eye on them without anybody knowing? Because guess what? If you see him talking to a kid, you immediately make an arrest, a citizen's arrest. They're not allowed to. So
someone like that, you have to, because I think he's around and out and about now. I don't think he really served any time for what he did to his daughter or any of the other females that he assaulted. So, but moving on.
Yes,
let's not get too focused on him being such a scumbag and focus on his part in history, because he did have one.
But I'm not going to read about him until we talk about him.
Right. Well,
somebody. All right, Nick Bockwinkel versus Scumbag. Naturally, this is a non-title match, as if Buck Zumwalt had a chance to beat Nick Bockwinkel. Okay?
Right.
In all my years of recapping this is the first time I've done a recap for Buck. At the age of 44, Bockwinkel is in year 4 of his first of 4 AWA world title runs. Bockwinkel just looks so good here. Everything he does is so crisp and feels legit. He works a headlock and a head scissors that actually looks painful. Probably was. He probably knew what Buck was up to.
Exactly.
Zumwalt finds a way out and pulls on Bockwinkel's arm for a bit. Again, the psychology is there. Bockwinkel comes right back and takes him from corner to corner for turnbuckle smashes. Buck misses a drop kick because Bockwinkel is the man and stays on the neck with his knee. On the neck with knee drops. Time to die, though, Buck. There's the pile driver, and Zumwalt is all done. Everything Bockwinkel did meant something and led to getting the pile driver for the pinfall. Being good is really just plain simple. Truth. And again, what I liked about, and when you look at the contrast between Hulk Hogan and then compared him to Ric Flair, who I'm not a big fan of, and then like Nick Bockwinkel.
Right. They were all the champions of different promotions at the time. One was WWF, one was the NWA, one was the AWA champion. So you had to imagine in your mind, in comparison, which one would be better. And if these guys all faced each other, like, it just competitively, what kind of a show would we have going on? And we never thought that it would get to the day where we would ever see that.
Yeah. And each one, the two of them, dressed in a suit, always looked classy, and was Hogan running around screaming with a T-shirt on. Just, it bewilders me how he became the star that he became. And it's just like what my son will bring me something to look at, and I'll look at it and I'll go, I don't get it. And then you look and it's got 7 million likes. Well, I got to think that there's a lot of people
that probably get it.
Yeah. And I don't want to put my son in that category because he's still young, but I venture to say that a large part of that number are adults, and it's no different than an adult on Facebook saying, so-and-so versus so-and-so, who would win? Whoever the booker says.
It really is.
Whoever the booker said. Now, if you asked me in a shoot, I could give you an answer. No different. I think we said this before. Oh, well, he won the title 17 times and he won it 31 times. So he's obviously better.
No, that's because that's what was written to happen is what? Yeah. Like, it's not a shoot. You're not fist fighting. We're not going by who would really win, but.
Yeah, he didn't win. They gave it to him.
Asked over and over again. Like, there's an answer. Like, the answer is because it's not a shoot, it's a work.
Yeah. and the answer is he didn't win it 17 times. They gave it to him 17 times.
Exactly.
Which means you got to carry that bitch around, and it's no fun. I'd rather not have it. Or keep it at the promotion and bring it out that night. Carry that crap around. It did save me from getting a ticket, though. We'll tell you that another time. Let me just check this here. All right. So we did the book Bockwinkel. So now this is another tag match. Greg Gagne versus Super Destroyer Mark III. I don't know who the hell that is. With Lord Alfred Hayes and Super Destroyer Mark II. Oh, a Mark III and a Mark II. Okay.
No Super Destroyers we know.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I knew who those guys were.
Yeah,
It'd be nice
maybe
to
they were
find that out.
locals.
So originally, Gagne was supposed to face Super Destroyer Mark II, but Hayes played the switcheroo on him and surprises him with this guy. This is the debut of Super Destroyer Mark III. Hayes says he brought the Masked Man in from Grenoble in France, wow, which is also where Andre is from. Under the mask, he's the Hangman from Los Angeles. Okay, there's an answer. From
Okay.
Los Angeles territory in WWE. As a French Canadian, he wrestles similar to Joe LeDuc, one of my favorites.
All
He
right.
cut his arm with the hatchet right on TV.
Right.
Great. Um,
Original ultra violence.
yeah, exactly. They were like, please don't do that today. Okay,
Talk
you can
about
do it if you want to.
hardcore. Right. Like, I'm just gonna hack my arm up there.
Yeah, he's a cutter. Mark III goes after the injured shoulder of Gagne to start, according to Kent, with hammerlocks and the like. Let's see what they got for us now.
I always look forward in wrestling magazines to see, the pictures of Joe LeDuc were always there, and he was always covered with blood, like
covered. He
always,
loved
like
it.
saturated in it. So, like the greatest pictures ever. Something to look forward to.
It was. He was like a freight train. I think they might have called him that. I'm not sure. He was like a freight train. And you want to know something? He had something he had to have custom made. He had tights on that looked like jeans, but they were like Spanx because they were like glue, like as tight as tights would be, but they had pockets and they were made to look like jeans. I wonder if we got to do that back then, And they were cuffed up, had the big boots, had the plaid shirt, and he was fierce, man. I mean, growing up, I was like, wow, that guy's a maniac.
Yeah, K&H wasn't around back then, so
no, they weren't.
Amazing some of the outfits that the guys found back then without a lot of people being around to make stuff.
Yeah, now everybody looks now it's just a guy with a name and a fancy pair of tights that looks just like the next guy with a fancy name and a fancy pair of tights because they use the same woman to make everything, and it's just one variation on the other. Ever since they started doing that, like, where's the guy's gimmick? His name is his gimmick. He doesn't even have Joe the Razor on there. He's just, whatever. And I don't get his gimmick. Where's the gimmick?
Joe the Razor. I like that.
Right? Where's the gimmick? It can't be your tights and your hair. Is it your hair? I don't know. What's your gimmick?
Yeah. Some people think that they could get over just on that.
I mean, you go in an indie locker room today, and I've been in a few recently, and I got confused, as did whoever else I was talking to. I don't remember, said the same thing. Oh, Mitch Seinfeld. They all look the same. They all look the same. There's like 6 guys there that I don't know who was who. It was like, they all look the same, similar tights. So, I mean, be an individual, Try to do something to separate yourself from the crowd a little bit. I guess it's too easy, just order the tights, put some fancy crap on there, and you go out and, whatever. All right, so we're still on the Gagne match. So Gagne, this is the skinny kid, breaks loose and applies an Indian death lock to work the leg. When Mark III, Mask Mark III, reaches the ropes, he delivers a series of backbreakers and shoulder breakers. Wow, both of them. Trying to put away Gagne. The Gagne sleeper is applied, though, but Mark III backs him into the corner. During Gagne's big comeback, they start brawling over in the corner where the referee catches a punch to the face to draw the DQ. 703. How unfortunate. Gagne picks up the cheap win. Afterwards, Mark III attacks the ref and drops him on the top rope. Ha ha, awesome. Gagne runs off the heels while some other resident babyface comes to check on the ref. Now, I got to speak on this.
Who? What other resident babyface? They didn't
tell you.
We want to know everything.
They just sent some. Go out there. What kills me about that? Here you are, the boss's son, and you can't lift a weight.
Oh, he always just had like the worst body, right?
And look, there's no look. If you had lifted weights to get to what he looks like, I'd say at least you
And
tried.
also, no kind of tights, no kind of
No,
like, just like what?
I
It's
don't know.
just
They had,
nothing, you
I
know?
think at one time they had some light blue and white tie dye crap. Greg Gagne and Jim Brunzell, right? But my
Then
point
he had a
is,
team with Scott Hall for a while, but like that
yeah,
wasn't much of a change either. It was just like
no,
plain tights and boots. Boom. Here we go. I'm Greg Gagne's son. It is
yeah,
pretty much, Brian
and
Gagne's son, excuse me. Like that was
yeah.
pretty much his whole deal.
But listen, if he was working for another promotion and he didn't want to work out, okay, what harm's done? But your father's trying to push you, and you are not helping him. Get your butt to the gym. What's so difficult? It's
Just a
no
little
different than I see a kid. I broke him in 11 years ago, and he looks exactly the same, if not, has put on weight and has made no progress. We went to the gym. I knew I wasn't going to be 6 foot. I said, well, however high I get, I'm going to be that wide. And it was never a time you could have said, what's he doing in there? Because I was a bull. I had to be at my height. But today, it doesn't matter. And I hate to keep ragging on these people, but if you're 5'9" and you're 170, skinny, fat, you better get to the gym. And the fact, you know why I'm mad? The fact that you don't is disrespectful to the business. Because in the old days, you would have never made it. Okay? And if you have an issue and you need to work on it, and I see you 6 months later and you're still working and you didn't correct it, very disrespectful. You gotta realize that you are granted. It is a privilege to be brought into the business, to be let into the business, to be let into the business. Not as long as you can pay the dues. At the end, you're a wrestler. You're not. Okay, you may be on the indie scene where the guy puts the cart before the horse, and he's got titles, and he's one and done. He didn't figure out if you're counting the bank from the ticket sales in order to pay the boys. No good. You got to have that money. Envelopes need to come into the building with people's names on them, filled with whatever you're paying them. End the story. You know why? When the guy comes in, because we've all been there wondering, did you get paid yet? Who wants to go to work thinking you don't know? Are they going to try to cheat me? But when you come in and I hand you your money, it's a test too, because if you do a shitty job, bro, you came in, I gave you your money, right? And then you bailed after 3 minutes. No good. But what you should get from them is loyalty, and they're going to do anything they can. I don't know, but Cairo and Angel, you get there, here's your envelope. Now I'm ready to work because I have no concerns, no worry that I don't have the money I need to get home. Because if I don't get paid tonight, I don't have enough money to go home.
You can't live on a hot dog,
Well,
and that's the way it is now.
I never had to do that because I got paid well, but it didn't mean that, because you got $100 bill, you were good. A lot of times you needed that money, So,
Sure.
it's like
If you want us to look at you, look the part and work hard at it, so that then we're not all skeeved out by you.
Yeah. Oh,
that's all.
It's not, definitely not hygiene, and it's dipped below mid-gene, and it is now low gene or no gene. That's my little thing that I always say at home. Like
back to our archives.
Yes, I could never live, in the old days where you couldn't get showered every day. Like, no way. Wasn't living in the West. None of that crap. So anyway, all right. So, again with this Gagne thing. So they're throwing him around. The Gagne sleeper was applied. The ref drops him on the top rope. Ha ha. So the ref, Mark III attacks the ref and drops him on the top rope. We read this, right? Gagne runs off the heels with the resident babyface who we don't know who it is. So, probably a really subpar match. So now we get Dick Reynolds. Don't know this guy. Nope. Sounds like a ring announcer. Versus Super Destroyer 2, with Lord Alfred Hayes. Pretty
Oh,
cool. Now Super Destroyer Mark II is the one we will all know as Sergeant Slaughter.
all
Check
right.
that out. That's cool. Mark III is kicked out of the building by the promoter, Wally Carbo. Mark II is already pissed off at the whole thing and roughhouses poor Reynolds. He gets in a few slams and whatnot, but this is all Mark II. Otherwise, the guillotine or the slaughter cannon gets him the win in 2 minutes and 22 seconds. There you
Wow.
go. Sergeant Slaughter, early days.
Squash.
Yes, sir.
Quick work,
Maggots.
squash.
I always liked him. You
Mm-hmm.
know, he was he was a little bit hardcore. He always was bleeding.
Sure.
You know. All right, so there's another name I don't know, but it's Jesse the Body Ventura. I didn't see no chokehold gorilla. It was the best. You know, Gorilla Monsoon would be look blatant chokehold by some. I didn't see no chokehold gorilla. They played so good off each other, and you know, Ventura always making excuses. I didn't see that. He was just trying to help him.
Jesse's a show of his own. You know, he's a whole freaking production.
And I'll never forget the movie where I don't know what it was. They're in a jungle with creatures.
Oh, Predator.
They're in the air in the helicopter, and one of the guys looked all around and said, "You're bleeding." He goes, "I ain't got time to bleed." I mean, you know, he was just awesome.
Classic stuff.
Yeah, but poor, poor imitation of superstar Billy Graham. I think. I think it was a poor imitation. I think if you can't come close to the real one or eclipse him, then you probably should bag that gimmick. Because if you're talking about somebody that's really, really good at it, you know, and I've seen and thought about how many comparisons you can make. Kendo Nagasaki and who's the other guy? Kendo Nagasaki and who was it? Two guys. It was Kendo and who was the other Oriental that did the same thing with the mist and all of that?
Muda, the great Muda.
Before Muda, the guy who's supposed to be Muda's father or something. Who was that? Man. Anyway, similar gimmick, and we're in the same areas at the same time, and you can easily like swap them out. It's bugging me now, but I'll remember it. You know that they one of them was handled by Gary Hart, which he was great.
That was the great Muda handled by Gary Hart.
Yeah,
we're rolling up on 8 minutes from the hour here. So,
oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So let's get back to the wrestling archive.
Right, let me wrap this one up. Jesse Ventura versus Peter Lee. Because we need more Jesse today. Only 3 minutes left in the program. Can Jesse get it done? Yeah, he can. Before you know it, he's got his arm and Egger, I don't know what that means, up in the body breaker. Eager? That's the guy's name. For the win in just a minute and 12 seconds. So a big push for Jesse Ventura and the poor Peter Lee, who's another guy I don't know. Final thoughts. Besides the fun look at Bockwinkel owning Buck Zumhofe, he's not a fan of this guy either, the writer. There's not a lot here. You may be interested in seeing Paul Ellering before he just stood beside the Road Warriors. I don't know. Anyway, not much here. Till next time, so long. All right, so we want to quickly maybe just compare the two, and if you were judging by what you read, what organization do you think had the better show? So I'll go like this real quick. Easy. All right, match length. Well, I would say they were pretty much all around the same. You know, Ventura had the quickest pin, a minute and 22 seconds. How much offense from the enhancement talent? I don't know. I think it wasn't a complete beatdown, right?
No.
I don't think so. All right, this one I want you to answer. Believability. What do you think about AWA and believability?
Well, I mean, as far as the technical stylings of the matches went, I would say, like, if you were a person that was going from watching grappling to watching that, maybe with some talent, but with others,
Yeah,
not so
yeah,
much.
yeah. I agree. All right, and we're gonna go to athleticism. Which side had a roster with better athleticism? I don't know. It doesn't sound to me like there was a whole hell of a lot in either group. I mean, I don't know of any of these guys that were even, considered to be real athletes. So you'd have to consider, Vern, who was a little older by then, Bockwinkel, sure. Mad Dog Rashawn, absolutely not. We already talked about Greg Gagne, and you really let your father down and made it
Right.
harder and harder for him to
Right.
push you because you didn't do anything to help the matter that you were like a stick. All right, I want you to answer this one. Overall match quality of AWA based on what we read.
Well, like giving it
You
a
don't even have
1
to,
to 10 star,
yeah, you
one
don't even
being
have to do that.
least
Oh,
quality, 10 being
just
the highest.
No, just pick who you would give the win to, WWF or AWA, in overall match quality by what we listened to, what sounded like more competitive matches.
I probably would have went with seeing WWF, to be honest with you,
Yeah,
in that time. But I don't know. I mean, you got Nick Bockwinkel and for
yeah,
AWA there, and that's always a high point. So
yep.
kind of hard to choose from that. I'm interested to know what you think, because it would actually be a hard choice for me.
I'll tell you what, at that time frame, I'm 21 years old. I probably would have picked the AWA for the
Mm,
simple fact that I didn't get to see as much of it as I
right.
did. But otherwise, I don't see either one having much of an advantage. It sounds to me like it's very similar booking, and the talent quality is about the same. There's, a couple big names. Well, actually, if you think about it, with Bockwinkel and Vern on this side, it's kind of hard to make a case for star power in the WWF because you had Chief Jay Strongwell. That's about the biggest name. Jerry and Jimmy Valiant,
We
Ivan
had
Putski.
Jesse Ventura on there,
Yeah,
which at a time, I watched AWA. I didn't really watch much WWF, but I know that when I did, the people that I liked in WWF, I liked Jesse Ventura. So that
yeah,
probably would have drew me over because a lot of times I would get bored watching AWA, to be honest with you,
yeah.
just
I
because I don't know, the quality of the program wasn't there for me all the time, and
yeah,
I was more of a NWA UWF viewer,
yeah,
uh, and a lot of the independents that sometimes would come on our local stations. So I was more into like wrestling of that category. So a lot of times I would go with AWA, but for this specific one,
yeah,
just to see Jesse Ventura, I think would be worth it.
yeah. Plus, the only thing that AWA had Jake the Milkman Milliman. Like, I mean, come on, he's a superstar. Check him out, Jake the Milkman Milliman. Perennial jobber that they always let him get a little comeback, and the people, they just felt sorry for him. They loved him, but he he was a hell of a talent. Was it Rusty Brooks that just died recently? You remember him? He was another
Yes.
jobber, but people don't realize. Like I look at Davey O'Hannon and Johnny Rods. I was on the phone with Johnny Rods yesterday, and really funny story. But a guy followed me to my house and pulled up on my car while I was sitting in it and wanted to know why I hit the car in the parking lot. I go, dude, and all of a sudden I realized that this guy followed me.
Oh,
Bro, I lost it. Well, who's listening but Johnny? Because I got the phone on the dash. When I got back on the phone, I mean, I was gone. I was like, bro, if I ever see you anywhere near my house again, you will never live to see another day. So I get back in the car and I'm still, fuming. And I pick up the phone. I said, oh my God. He goes, Papito. He goes, you got to calm down. He goes, but I'll tell you what, I'm impressed because I know that you're banged up and you're a little bit older, but based on the way you sounded, there's no doubt in my mind that the guy was a 6 and 300 pounds, you would have whipped it. So I was so proud for him to be privy to that, even though in a lot of cases I would be embarrassed for somebody to see me like that. You know, somebody who thinks I'm a mild mannered guy, and then they hear that, like you caught me last week, right?
Oh,
I
sure.
screamed about the traffic or something. I was like,
Right.
"Oh, sorry."
Right.
It's like you went from Jekyll and Hyde. You know, that's
Mm.
how it goes.
I think we all have that about us, that Jekyll and Hyde thing, and a lot of it comes from wrestling and what it's done to our brain from performing. But we're coming to about a close here, Tommy. Is there anything
Wow.
anything? Yeah, already. Is there anything left that
Awesome.
you want to leave us with for Wrestling Archives this week?
Sure. I just think that the differences in the groups and the companies over the years is always going to be people are going to like this product and people are going to like that product. And for me, I'll leave it with this, that I recognize not early, because I think the early stuff of WWF was pretty good, and I think it started to go off the tracks, in the 80s. And that's when I no longer could really watch it. Now, I'll be honest with you, I don't watch any WWE. I will
Right.
watch Joe McHugh in the Philadelphia Arena, All Star Wrestling. I like that. I will watch it. But it changed and it got watered down and it got too cartoonish for whatever reason. But other than that, I was always looking for something that I hadn't seen and on a regular jammed down my throat. And when I was growing up in the beginning, that's all you had. So when anything came about, it might have been not that good. You were excited to see it because it was different.
Right.
And you and I have the same, maybe it's not the same time frame, but you got hooked on something you saw on TV, whatever it was you connected with. And here we are. I'm
Here
63
we are.
going on 64, loaded everything here, books, man. It's insane. But this is what we expect a guy and a girl in a business to have. I don't want to hear you say, well, I was never really into pro wrestling. What? What are you doing here? Get out or learn the history. Get a book. Read a book.
Exactly. And you can learn the history here on Wrestling
Yes.
Rewind every week at
Yep.
Sundays at 7 here on the Monte and Pharaoh Network
Yes.
YouTube.
Yep.
I hope you have joined this week's episode of Wrestling Rewind's Wrestling Archives with Iron Man Tommy Cairo, and hope that you'll join us back real soon. And until then, Tommy, would you like to say goodbye?
We'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time. Until then, have a great night and a great life.